Hey everybody, welcome back. Beautiful day to work outside. It's about 65 degrees and sunny out. I'm going to get a little bit warmer today. And today, now that the freeze plugs on the Mustang are done, I have a couple small things I want to do on the Jeep. What I want to work on today is the fuel pressure regulator, and I have something to fit. This fitting here on this pump is an inverted male flare, and I've got a pipe thread fitting in it, and I knew it wasn't right when I put it in, but I could not find the correct fitting. Well, I now have it here, and hopefully I'm going to be able to get that in, because I don't like leaving that like that. But I have the fuel pressure regulator sitting here, and it's just an inexpensive, cheap one, copy of the Chinese copy of the Holly, and it might be the Holly one because the Holly one's made in China now, and honestly they look identical to me. I picked up the one that came with the gauge, and yes, I know people say these are junk, but people say all of the 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 fuel pressure regulators are junk. Nobody likes the Mr. Gasket, you know, the one that has the dial in the middle. No matter whether they're 15 bucks or 55 bucks branded Mr. Gasket, everybody says they leak. Of course, everybody says all those mechanical fuel pumps leak too, and mine isn't, so I don't know. Anyway, I bought this one because it came with a gauge and it was inexpensive. Now, these have 4 fittings on them that you can use. One obviously is the one for the gauge. You don't have to have the gauge. Then there's 3. The inlet is in the bottom and the outlets are on either side, even though it's not marked. So you could hook this up to 2 carburetors if you want it. And I'm just going to plug one off. And I believe I'm going to mount it right down in here. I'm going to bring the inlet off of that fuel filter back in there. I'm going to bring the outlet off of there into the fuel inlet, which is over down here, I should say. Probably mount it here about like that. And then the outlet is going to come to here and then go up to the carburetor. And hopefully that will let me know what I need to know. So I've got this all hooked up now, and I'm pretty happy with the way that it is. But one thing I want to do before I run this is I want to pop the top off of that carburetor, which I just did. And look how low the fuel level is. I mean, it sat for several days without running, so it's possible it evaporated. But yeah, I wouldn't have thought it would have evaporated that much in the time it sat. But so anyway, while I have it off, I want to know what jets are in it. I want to know what air correctors are in it. And I want to know what emulsion tubes are in it. And I may pop off of these. If I can get that gasket off without wrecking it, I may pop off these Venturis and see what numbers they are as well. I don't have another gasket, so I'm going to kind of have to hope that it just comes off, and it just did. Look at that, huh? Boy, my luck is working with me today, or at least it isn't working against me. So I'm going to set that down someplace where I'm sure it will wind up in the dirt and wind up getting broken. And I am going to see, boy, it's really nice and clean inside. I want to know those jet numbers, and to get those jet numbers, I'm going to have to pull them out. But I can see the, it's too small for me to read with the glasses I have on, but I can see what these are, but I want to know what the emulsion tubes in there are. I'm not really that worried about what the accelerator pump nozzle is. Honestly, I know that it's working because I can see it working. So I'm really not that worried about it. I may take a look at it just so I have all that information while it's off. But let's get all that info before we try the fuel pressure regulator. So I had to power up my digital microscope to even see this number. It is barely stamped in there, and even with 3 power reading glasses I couldn't see that, but thanks to this thing I can see that it is a 145. Now that is a metric number. I'm assuming it's 1.45 millimeters, but I don't know. 145 is the primary main jet. All right, the main jets are down here. This is the inlet valve down here. I know you probably can't see that. 2 mains down here, primary and secondary. These are the air inlet, the air correctors, I think they call them, and the emulsion tube is under them. So what you do, you unscrew the air corrector, and then you take a little hook tool or something else to go in there, and then the emulsion tubes lift out, and there are numbers on them. And if you're anything like me, you will need some type of magnifier in order to read them. Fortunately, everything in this carburetor is very clean. And then what I want the number off of the pump, which I really don't care about, and I want the numbers off of the Venturi tubes. And I think they should just lift out at this point, but they don't seem to. So I don't want to damage anything, but I am going to try and get them out of there to get the numbers off them. Unless I can see it without doing it, which I might be able to. I see a number over here. So I'm assuming, I might be able to take a picture of those and see them. So let me try that. This top piece that holds the brass piece that holds the accelerator pump nozzles down, the brass piece I could not find any number on at all, even under the microscope. The pump nozzle itself is either a 50 or a 51, but that 51 looks like it could be 50, and only half of the zero got stamped. So I say I don't care about that because that's working fine, and I could get pictures of it. I don't know if you can see it here of the Venturis. There are numbers marked on it. They are both 3.5. And these here, these air correctors, if I didn't mention it, these are a 160 and a 170, and both emulsion tubes are an F50. So all I really want to do at this point is check the I also want to mention the accelerator pump nozzle is only drilled on the primary side for these progressives. The ones that aren't progressives, where both barrels open at the same time, like 38, both should be drilled. So other than that, I want to check the float level here, and I got to look up how to do that, and then I'm going to call it done and put it back together. So I got the little diagram to adjust the float with the measurements on it, and it was at most 2 millimeters off, maybe not even that. I adjusted it slightly, but I honestly don't think that little bit's going to make any difference. So I checked to make sure everything is tight. I'm going to go ahead and put it back together. This little E-clip here is kind of a pain in the tush, but if you shut the choke and hold it shut while you're trying to put it back on, that's the easiest position it's in to get to. And a good little pair of needle nose pliers, and I just use the ones on my SOG PowerPoint because it's fairly new, so they're not worn. And push it back in, and if you drop it, go buy 10 of them and you'll eventually get one in. I actually got it on the first try, but I'm going to have to pull this off again when I change the jets, and that'll give me a chance to lose it. Everything is back together. I have my new fitting down here on. That was super easy to do. Of course, carburetor's all back together. I know all the jet numbers. Fuel pressure regulator is in. Everything's clamped down. And it is almost 1 o'clock, and Dog and me both want our lunch. So I think we're going to go have lunch, and then we'll come back out and we will check this out and see what the fuel pressure of this cheapo mechanical fuel pump is. Everything's ready to go, I think. Forgot to hook the choke back up. Let's do that real quick. All right, there we go. Can't think of anything else to do now. The float bowl is nearly empty. The lines are empty. So it's probably going to take a bit of cranking to start it, but there we go. 1,000 RPM, 11 to 1, because the choke is still on. Let's make sure there's no leaks. We don't even have enough fuel pressure to register on the gauge. So let's see if we can adjust this a bit. Come on. It has to have some fuel pressure, right? So I took the regulator apart just because I wanted to take a look at it. I took it apart just because I wanted to make sure there was nothing wrong with it, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, I'm obviously getting fuel pressure because the engine runs. If I had none, it wouldn't run at all. So I'm going to put it back together. I have another gauge here I'm going to hook up. Of course, it goes from 0 to 100, and only, you know, the first half inch is 10, so I don't know what it's going to tell me, but I'm going to try it anyway. If it stays on 0, I guess that will tell me that this is not really lying to me. So let's try that. Let me put this back together so I don't lose all the pieces, and we will try that. Okay, so let's see if this tells us anything. Let me get the camera down here. Yeah, that is showing 0 fuel pressure. Exact same thing as this one shows. I figured these pumps were going to be bad. I didn't figure they were going to be this bad. I mean, the pump does work, obviously, or the engine wouldn't run. Maybe let's try plugging the return line and see if I'm losing a lot through the return line. All right, I'm going to crimp off my return line with this, and we will see if the return line is part of my problem. So let's just crimp that completely off. That should have done that. Let's start it back up and see what happens. Aha! There we go, look at that. So I'm losing all that pressure through that return line. Yeah, I'm reading like 8 pounds of pressure. So let's hook this back up and we'll get it adjusted through here. Now let's see what I got. My return line is still plugged up and that's all back together. All right, now I'm showing 5.5 pounds here. So let's adjust it. Let's get this set where I want it, which is going to be about 3. Not going to come down. Huh. All right, I've backed that all the way out and it ain't coming down. Isn't backing out less fuel pressure and going in more? What I thought. Alright, this thing just doesn't work, does it? But my gauge doesn't, my regulator does absolutely nothing. It's all the way out now. So there it is with the plunger pushed all the way in. At 6.5 pounds. And here it is with the plunger all the way out. 5.5 pounds. All right, well, you know what? If nothing else, I learned a lot. For now, I just have the fuel filter plumbed directly into the carburetor, and I have the fuel pressure regulator engaged completely disconnected. I'm going to contact the seller of this and see what they have to say for themselves. So I've had the day to think about this, and I also communicated with the seller of this device on eBay, Chinese obviously, and they were very responsive to me. They obviously just don't have a clue what they're selling, and because of what I said to them and what they said to me, they just went ahead and refunded my money, even though that wasn't exactly what I wanted, but their lack of knowledge on what they're selling kind of made it impossible to get any kind of resolution out of them. They don't even want this back. Couple of things to note. One thing is, did I do something wrong in this? Have I somehow done this wrong? One thing also to note is there are 2 almost, and this is a knockoff of a Holley. Holley makes 2 that look identical. The numbers are 13-803 and 13-804. The 804 is what this is supposed to be a clone of. It is supposed to regulate between 1 and 4 psi. What the factory preset, I think they say, is 2.7 or 2.8. The other one, the 803, it is designed to be from 5 to 9 psi, and I think it says they're preset to something like 7. So, and there is on the clones, there is no way on it to tell which one they've sent you, and the box is not marked. So since I could not get this to go below 5, my question to the seller was, did you accidentally sell me an 803 clone and not an 804 clone? And of course they don't know. They think these are carburetors. Something else worthy of note is this 3-nipple fuel filter. There's an inlet, an outlet, and a return to the tank. And Wix makes these, and they make 2 identical ones. And one of them, the return to the tank is free-flowing, and the other one has an orifice in it that only lets a little bit of tiny fuel through. And the only purpose is to stop vapor lock, and it does. They work really well. Almost all cars, except AMC cars, and this, of course, is an AMC. This Jeep was the years AMC owned them. Almost all other cars that use these used one with the orifice in it. AMC used the free-flowing one, and I understand the orifice was back at the tank. But you also knew who changed all that stuff not that long ago. That'd be me. I put a new fuel pickup and sending unit in it, and maybe it was supposed to have an orifice in it, and maybe it doesn't. I don't know. So there could be an issue going on with that as well, because I'm obviously completely free-flowing back to the tank from here, and that's why I'm not building any pressure. Now I'm starting to think about a lot of stuff I didn't think about before. And one thing that's become obvious to me is putting a fuel pressure regulator downstream of a return line isn't really going to work. At least it doesn't seem to me like it's going to work. And these are designed, the standard Jeep is designed to have this in. I had to add this back when I took the projection off because the return line was built into the throttle body of the projection. So there is that. Obviously, I'm in no danger of overwhelming the needle and seat on the Weber as long as I have this, since the fuel pressure doesn't even register on a gauge. So where to go from here? Like I say, I think putting this downstream from that fuel filter is kind of pointless. And that's there for a reason, and that's to prevent vapor lock. And I live in Arizona, and you know what? It gets very, very hot here, so it seems to me like a good idea to keep this. I just don't know. I have to think about it more. So I've had another day to think about this, and as you can see, I got rid of that regulator completely, and for now, I just kind of hot glued the holes up. I'm kind of not sure where I'm going from here. My whole point of doing this originally was twofold. One, because I was afraid of overwhelming the Weber carburetor with 5 or 6 pounds of fuel pressure, which I'm obviously not have to worry about now since it's 0. And the other was in case the mechanical fuel pump fails. And I have just been reading over and over and over again how these modern mechanical fuel pumps, how they won't go 100, 200 miles without failing. Obviously, this one hasn't failed yet, but it probably only has a couple hours of runtime on it. In the old days, these things lasted 50,000 miles, but I guess they're all just junk right now. So my second reason was, in case I go ahead and put an electric fuel pump back on it, it would take me all of 15 or 20 minutes to put an electric fuel pump back on this, and I have a Holly Red sitting on the shelf, brand new, I've never used. They're 7 psi. And I mean, I'm all set up back at the back of the car because I had the projection on it, because there was an electric fuel pump back there. All I'd really have to do is plumb the thing in and run the wiring, and the plumbing is all back there for it. It's ready to go. But then again, that's only 7 psi, and this seems to be like 6.5. And if I don't need the pressure regulator for this, why would I need it for the Holly? As long as I have that type of fuel filter in here, I don't think I really need a pressure regulator at all. So I think I've kind of beaten myself up for nothing. At least that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I know some people say you should always have a fuel pressure regulator because it gives you one more point of knowledge and one more point of adjustment, but it also gives you one more point of complexity, one more thing to go wrong, and one more place it can leak. Anyway, this has kind of been a bummer for me, but at least I know I don't need a fuel pressure regulator. Anyway, I'm going to go in and have a beer. Talk to you guys later. Bye for now.